Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Patience Rose, and we're here live with Red Worldwide and co-working today. And we are thankful that you've joined us to be in this session. For those of you who are live in our Zoom studio, we are grateful that you're here and that you come consistently to participate. And for those of you who are watching this later on YouTube, thank you for being a part. We are so excited that we are still in Jacksonville, Florida. We've been here for the last 4 days and we've just been having an amazing time. This has been a time of training and reflection and just all types of wonderful things. Tools that we've been able to amass during this time have been amazing. And I cannot wait I can hardly wait, I should say, to share what we've been learning. We've picked up so many good things, and it's just hard to not try to share it all today, but we know that it's not possible for us to bring everything to the table right now. So we will kind of just, share our regular content that we had prepared. And when we come back soon, we will bring all of the tools out, things that we've been learning, and prepare to really give you guys a deep dive on some amazing things that we've been able to pick up during this conference. Let me just say this, for those of you who are watching, maybe for the first time, or you're very, very new to our ecosystem, you are here at our co-working online because at some point we decided that it was really important for us to make co-working, which is tool that we have used to bring together our community at Red Worldwide, business owners, aspiring business owners, inventors, and product creators alike. We have aspired to bring them all together so that they would have an opportunity to share in the ecosystem that we have that we call co-working, which is a shared community that people would be able to ask questions, get answers, think up topics, for us to, delve into that would inform their processes of being a business owner or doing business better as an owner, or even becoming a business owner and learning what to do, as a person who is bringing something to the marketplace. And so we have done so many different episodes now. This is episode number 52, and we are in this thing really deep that has been called legacy, or for that matter, succession, which is what we're going to kind of talk about today. We've really been looking at options, and things that people need to know about, having a company that lasts beyond you, that exists despite despite you, or that exists because of you. There are many people who have in a lot of different ways seen, these concepts of talking about business and possibly even looking at what can happen about their business or for their business beyond them, and they've taken these things very, very seriously. And as we have begun to really, help people to see that one day their company is going to have to belong to someone else, or it's going to have to do something different because they cannot live forever. And in that moment that they are able to have that aha and realize that they need to be doing something today to prepare for tomorrow, so that whoever it is that is able to take over their company or to just continue the legacy, it needs to be in a position where they have something very valuable and very strong that they can deal with. And so we've talked about some options. And those of you who are in our coaching program, or maybe in our mastermind, some of you guys who are um, been in the Value Builder Engagement Program, have come to understand that we talk about drivers of business value. In other episodes, we've talked about drivers of professional value, or and even talked about drivers of personal value. And it's so important that people are really clear about something driving them to do more than what they're doing right now to create the company that will be able to last or outlast them. And so, with that said, I want us to take a look at a few things. We've looked at a few concepts in the past, and we've talked about end game. We've talked about the freedom score, or the freedom point score. We've talked about, having, the ability to have your business be what you deserve and desire because you spend time working on your business, as well as in your business. And so these are all really important, things that are key to owning a company that is valuable and a company that really can outlast you. And why is it so important for us to be thinking about companies that outlast us? Well, some of the things that you might want to think about is that when you got into business, to create a company that, would bring certain things to the forefront. And I'm sure that when you thought about your company from the very beginning, you didn't necessarily think about it ending. You might have thought about selling it. You might have thought about passing it down. You might have thought about it being acquired by another company, but ending it, just closing it down for good, I don't think that was in the forefront of your mind when you started the company. And I could be wrong, but I just don't think I am. And so because of that, I want you to be thinking about the what's next, what's not just what's new, but what's next for my company. Will this be a year of transition for you? Will this be a year of sustainability for you? Is this a year that you make things more stable, or you add different services to, actually support what you're already doing? What does this year mean for you? And so thinking about where we are in the year, we're today in the first week of May. And as we're looking at this week, thinking about where we are in the year, we're almost 50% done with this year. And we're talking about the fiscal year. Or I should say the calendar year. We are thinking about things right now. And when I say we now, I'm talking about my company that I run, the nonprofit side of what we are doing. We're thinking about things right now that could benefit, our clients, in this season, because we recognize that many of them are also in the middle of their year. Okay. And so with that said, there may be some things that they might be experiencing that are kind of challenging. And because of that, they may be thinking about, okay, I got into business because of the fact that I wanted to have access to a lifestyle that I could control. I wanted to be able to do something different than I've ever done before. I didn't want to be paycheck oriented or dependent on someone else's business. And I really wanted to, have access to something that was going to cause me to ultimately have freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, freedom to dream and to do and be things that I wanted to do and be, and not have other people's ideas imposed upon me. Those are some of the things that I have heard and experienced from clients who have been looking at why they made a decision to get in business. And so I want you to stop for a minute and just think into this thing and think about what your reason for becoming a business owner was. Why did you decide to become a business owner? What is it about business that was intriguing to you? And with that said, what is it that keeps you in business or keeps you moving forward in business? What is it that will cause you to remain hopeful that your business can be strong and weather any storm that would come and continue to be profitable. What do you need to do to really drill down and create within your company a lasting, sustainable business workflow, something that will make sure that your business stays strong for the long haul. And so, and no matter what your end game is, I mean, that's, your end game may not be to sell your company. It might be to pass it down to your children or pass it down to the next level of managers, but whatever it is, I want you to be really thinking about, what are the things that you need to put in place now that will cause your company to be strong. So as we're looking at this, I really want us to be thinking about it from a standpoint of, do I have everything in place that would cause my company to be strong enough to weather any storm that could be coming. So when we're looking at strong companies, I want us to think about companies that are in business now that may have started off as a small family business, or for that matter, just a small, fledgling company, and has over time been able to establish a footing in their particular industry and begun to move forward. So let's pick one. Okay. I love case studies. I am the person that loves case studies. We're going to pick a couple of companies and we're going to talk about things that are different in those companies than possibly might have been, in companies that they ran alongside of when they started. And so I love to, look at companies that have, had challenges along the way and talk about not just how they weathered the storm, but things that they could have put in place that might be helpful to you or some company that you might know. And so it's important for us to, take a look at some of these. So I'm going to pull some of my notes. We're not going to do slides today, but, I want to pull some of my notes because I've done a few of these case studies, and I want to be able to, talk about these companies from a standpoint of their story. Okay. So, as we're looking at companies, in industries that have been long standing, that have withstood, the test of time, I want to, bring one to the forefront, I should call it my, for who's behind door number one. Okay. That has had adversity but have been able to remain standing. And so for some of us, we think about adversity, when we're looking at a company, and the only thing that we kind of may look at is things that have to do with finances, but here's a company that is a financial company. It's based on the concept of getting money from one person to another. And it was founded in 1851 and is one of the oldest companies to have survived for over 150 years. In the years that led up to the 1990s, they kind of lost focus a little bit, and they diversified their product portfolio a little too much. And as a result of that, they experienced decreased margins and increasing debt and timely, challenges in the marketplace. And ultimately they had to file bankruptcy. That company is Western Union. Now, some of us know Western Union because, we've seen the commercials and, how you have somebody in one country calling home, because they're in a situation and needing someone to send them money. And so the concept of Western Union being that particular type of company, has gone along with its branding and rebranding, because that branding of painting the picture of Western Union being the way to get money to someone in another country, that absolutely came after the 90s. Okay. So I just want to make sure you understand that. The company had so much of a challenge that, in 1994, they were acquired by another financial institution called First Data. And so once they were acquired by their new owner, they regained their focus and their core money transfer business, and they've enjoyed double-digit growth ever since. And so I want to really, talk about them because they are one of the staples in our country. That is there not just to serve people in America, but they serve people all over the world. Some of the things that we have been able to see with Western Union because of their interesting experiences and the way that they've had to go through some of the challenges that they had. Right now, they're 163 years young, I should say. And with that stated, it's the company itself has spearheaded very key innovations, which have become entrenched in our history. They were the first nationwide transcontinental telegraph line. Wow. Okay. In 1861, they also, are known for, in 1868, providing weather services. The establishment of what is considered to be the modern age research and development lab has been, attributed to Western Union. Okay. And so when we're looking at, that particular R&D lab was actually in Menlo Park. Telex, okay, in 1920 actually came from Western Union. And when we're looking at the microwave radio network in 1948 and the first U.S. commercial satellite, Westar, in 1974, all of these things came right out of Western Union. So today it is a $5.5 billion modern Fortune 500 company. And it offers, money services, transfers, payment, bill pay, foreign exchange solutions to customers and businesses in more than 200 countries and territories. So let's kind of look at, what I should say, the makeup is of a long-standing organization like Western Union. Well, one of the things that Western Union learned is, that they had to really focus on what their main thing is. In the years leading up to the 1990s, they had really, become so diversified. And as a result of that, they lost a lot of money. As I talked about their decreased margins and increased debt. And when you have decreasing margin and increasing debt, it can really cost you a lot, and sometimes even your whole company. But, with the purchase from, by First Data, one of the things that we've been able to see is that there are a number of things that Western Union has been able to experience that has made it to have continued success. It created for itself a niche. And that niche, once they were able to stay true to it, allowed them to, even though they were purchased by another company, they were able to spin off from that company in 2006 and become a newly independent company that's listed on New York Stock Exchange. So, an amazing story. When we talk about it, they have changed their branding from time to time. They've even changed their moniker or their logo and tagline. So now their tagline is moving money for the better, or moving money for better. And so when we're thinking about all of the things that this company has had to weather the storm from or through, thinking about them now, talking about moving money for better, or for the greater good, and we can look at it that way. We are seeing that they have a service-oriented mindset, and that is something that's amazing. Okay, so the other thing we have to think about is that they chose to stick to and communicate the right strategy. Okay. Having the right strategy is sometimes really difficult when you're thinking about all of the things that might be going on right now. And it may be a lack of capital, but it also could be, again, a lack of, key processes being in order and, not being able to have things operate at the level that they need to in your business can really create for you a big challenge. It's, one of those things when you're thinking about strategy, if you don't have the right one, okay, it can be it can present a problem that is not easily solved because you're having to sit and look at the data and look at all of your processes, look at everything with regards to your staffing and what it is that you're doing, even your products. Do you have the right products and services for the type of company you're trying to be? What is going to be the end game of the company? Having all of those things in place and then having to try to react to financial crises can, be the perfect storm for a company to close. But in 2010, with a newly appointed CEO, Wells Fargo was faced with adjusting to their new normal and implementing change strategies. And so sometimes companies who've had challenges like that, they're, adverse to change. They don't have the risk tolerance as a company to try to come in and do very radical things to expand their capacity and move into an area where they are completely ahead of the pack and where they can actually take their portion of the market share. But their new CEO, Hikmet Ersek, was faced with this task of adjusting the company and standing for a change that could help them to implement processes, implement new procedures, and implement a disciplined, controlled environment, for their product development to take place, new product development. So he actually engaged their stakeholders to quickly define what the strategy was going to be. And then he communicated to all the employees in different types of meetings and virtual meetings, communication campaigns, and other types of channels, letting them know that there was a sense of urgency and helping them to understand that they had a specific short period of time that they could adopt the strategies needed so that they could implement change. And when they were able to all come together and understand that, if they didn't do this, their failure could seriously impact the company's business further. And knowing what they had come from and the history, it was important for everybody to band together to set up a transformation that would be sustainable. Okay. And so there was ways that they had to go about this. And Wells Fargo is one of those banks that I think about, when I look at faced with some of these same issues as Western Union, they almost did not survive. I look at some of the other financial institutions. We lost 5 financial institutions last year. They closed their doors. And I think about others that, the 2 that went out of business the year before. And these are major institutions that, people had been banking at for years. So it's not like they were newbies on the block or that there were, things that didn't work. They had, depositors, and they had all of the right stuff for the banks to be able to serve their clients. However, something was awry in the mix. And as a result of that, because of that, they were not able to recover quick enough, and they went a different direction. And soon they went into their demise. But Wells Fargo was able to survive, a few of these different challenges. We saw Bank of America that had some challenges last year, lawsuits that ensued, and they've been able to, do their best to weather the storm. We've seen Chase go through some things over the last few years. And during the pandemic, they they had an immense challenge. They took almost all of their staff to the home-based business, if I can say it that way, transitioning them to work from home. We've seen a lot of these kinds of things, but even with that, looking at what Western Union was able to do, they were able to fully realize their potential, despite, all of the issues that they had. They were able to overcome, some really serious and, infractions and things that would, just cause most companies to close their doors. But they were able to rank their investment requests against clear, shared strategic criteria company-wide. That is something that, is very difficult to do. And it takes a lot for a company to look at, okay, this is what we're doing wrong. All right, this is what's not working. And understand that if that's what's not working, how do we get here to something that does work? And then to use these metrics and the data that they were collecting to continuously benchmark against themselves. This is where we were last month. This is where we are now. What do we need to do for next month to make sure that we're constantly growing to get to our new normal? Okay, what is it that they had to communicate in terms of their projects and how they could fund those things to make sure that they got to a clear set of offerings that they were going to provide for their customers, and not just provide it, but provide it well? What kind of initiatives could they clarify that would allow them to have teams working from each end of their company? And, how did they radically prioritize, things to avoid spreading their valuable resources too thin? Because when you're in a situation where you have to press the reset button and you may not have an enormous amount of money to work with to redo this type of strategy and put things in place, sometimes it really is a challenge, because you have to use some of your human resources, your human capital in many different places to really hone in on what it is that your company is going to do for the long haul to remain sustainable. So the different models that Western Union were able to put in place, and that they were able to utilize to execute their strategy, they didn't immediately yield fruit. It took time. And I mean, for any of you guys who know anything about fruit trees, there are some trees that actually don't yield fruit immediately. I mean, we have come to understand something about the beautiful, and I really do love the avocado trees. They're beautiful to look at, and the fruit, of course, is amazing. I'm an avocado lover. But in looking at the amount of time, if you went from planting an avocado seed to getting a tree to actually getting fruit from the tree, I've been told that it could take as much as 20 years to actually get fruit that could be eaten, on the avocado tree. And thinking about, even the coconut tree, people who live in places where coconut is abundant, talk about, how planting, the very young trees, even when they are replanting a tree into their yard, they still might not get fruit that can be utilized for 25 years. Okay. So looking at what it is that we are seeing, in just the analogy that I'm using with regards to planting and replanting, sometimes when you're in a situation like what Western Union was in, the planting and replanting process does not come immediately. And as a result of not getting the desired results immediately, some people can make the mistake of tossing the baby out with the bathwater, okay? They might decide that, what, I cannot, and we talked about this the other day, I cannot persevere. And so because I can't persevere, maybe I need to pivot and just close the doors. But that is not what their decision was. In 2013, the CEO that had been put in place in 2010 decided to establish the Transformation Office, which was a new function that would report to him with a mission of driving prioritization and planning for critical growth priorities that aligned with the company's strategy, driving expense discipline and operational improvements. And it's really difficult when you've been used to spending money differently and you're now given constraints that will come into alignment with the set of priorities that really help the company to do what it was designed to do. Or for that matter, advanced strategic planning, highlighting operational and financial implications that, strategic planning is not for the faint of heart. Sometimes you drill down and you find out that things that are not working to maintain the I should say, the infrastructure of the company have to be completely redone. And having a cross-functional approach to the priorities, that Transformation Office, they were able to centralize key processes, prioritization decisions, fostering a culture of only moving forward on initiatives that displayed strategic alignment and significant sufficient return on investment. If there was not a return on investment, then moving in the direction of a return on investment, then those were things that could move forward at all. And this approach also had to look at increasing funding for and focus on fewer strategic projects. In other words, limiting the things that you're doing and not trying to do too much too quickly, and sometimes at all. Some things had to come off the plate and maybe they couldn't pick those things back up again, but it did drive greater clarity around ownership, by assigning P&L responsibility for strategic initiatives to selected business unit leaders and providing a forum, for aligning executives on the opportunity and risk associated with the new products and services, which, while vital to drive future sustainable growth, they can derail a company from its strategic direction if not introduced in a controlled, focused way and at the right time. So we see these things as lessons that we can learn from Western Union. So, as we're looking at this, we are coming to, kind of the top of our hour, but we really want to be paying attention to there being 3 practical steps that you can utilize when looking at what has happened with Western Union. And you can start working on these things right away in your company to make significant improvements, in your strategy, for execution. The first thing is you can focus on your core at all times. What is your core mission? What are your core visions? And what is your core value system? How are you looking at this company? And how are you staying true to those things, and not going in directions that lead you away from your core mission, your core vision, and your core values? How do you communicate the right strategy at all levels at the organization? Because sometimes we are communicating the right strategy at the top, but we are not necessarily looking at what's happening at the bottom, and the strategy that we're communicating really is working against what we're doing at the top. And so we need to be through and through communicating our strategy, and whatever that strategy is, it needs to be cohesive and in alignment so that everyone is all moving in the same direction, and we don't have some people rowing the boat in one direction while other people are trying to row in the other. How do you develop a disciplined approach to prioritization of support for your C-suite? Some of the things that people are experiencing, when they're seeing challenges or problems in a company, would cause them to sometimes go in a different direction than what the CEO or the COO, or for that matter, the entire C-suite is going. They will start moving in a different direction, or at least complaining and talking about what they don't see happening and what they're not in alignment with, and how they're going to leave if this thing or that thing doesn't change. And instead of doing that, what can you do to be a part of the change, a part of the, making it so that the leadership can actually do things to right the ship. It's hard running a company. It's really hard work. And I can tell you from the standpoint of being a serial entrepreneur, being the entrepreneur who had employees, and I can tell you from being the solopreneur who works with contractors, I can tell you, about being the entrepreneur that had outsourced everything, so being a solopreneur who had completely outsourced the entire set of processes for the company and only was just literally there to make sure that everything got done. I mean, I've been in all three of those positions, and at every level in all three of those positions, it has been hard work. Not necessarily hard work in the manner in which, it's been labor intensive, but sometimes it was mentally a challenge, or the ability to keep up with the demand of the industry has been, more than what, I thought I could bear. But what I can tell you about being in a position where you are going to persevere instead of pivot, when you've made that decision, you start to begin to look at your company the same way that Western Union did. And maybe you might have to sell, to dig the company up out of a situation. Or maybe you might have to take on partners, for that matter. Maybe you might have to regain some principles and thoughts, that you might have had early on that will cause you to, actually add services, to the company that helps it to become strengthened, and so that it can move forward in a very powerful and real way. Maybe all of those things are the things that you might have to do, but you've got to make up your mind, no matter what it is that you're looking at, that you are the person that has decided that you're going to be resilient and that you're going to persevere. And with those choices, you could almost invariably find your way, to have options, the same as what Western Union was able to do. Well, this has been Patience Rose with Co-working Live with Red Worldwide, and I'm so glad that you joined us today. And I'm hoping that you have been able to extract something from this this shared story. I was able to, pull in this information from LinkedIn and the story that they did about longevity, and they pulled in the case study, of our wonderful company, Western Union. Let me just say this: Western Union now has so many good changes that they've been able to make since 2013. Their fees have become, less. They actually have wallets that allow you that if you have someone that has a wallet in their country or maybe in their state and you're sending money to them, it allows you to be able to send for only $1.99 to do that transfer. I mean, there's just, and the most that I've paid recently, and we send money to missions a lot and educational funds to different people in different countries. And the most that we've actually spent to send money outside of the country recently has been $4.99. I remember the time that I spent as much as $13, $14, $15 to send a money transfer, to someone in another country, or even someone upstate New York. I've sent money that way, and it was just so challenging because it was almost cost prohibitive to send the money, but they needed it, and so I did it. I will tell you now that the products that Western Union has added has made it such that people can now send money for a fraction of the cost of what it for times in the past. So when we look at case studies of companies that have weathered a storm, this company has been one of those that we can look at time and time again and extract something new every time that will help business owners to see what's possible. Well, thank you so much for joining, and we will see you again next time.